In August of 1985, 20-year-old Kristen O'Connell traveled from Burnsville, Minnesota to Ovid, New York, a small village in the Finger Lakes region. She had come to visit Jim Vermeersch, a young man she had met 5 months earlier during spring break on Captiva Island, Florida. They had stayed in touch through letters and phone calls, and Kristen had accepted an invitation to spend a week with him in upstate New York. But almost as soon as she arrived, the trip seemed to change. Instead of the visit Kristen may have expected, Jim had rented a small trailer near the Golden Buck, a local bar and restaurant. Locals later said he appeared distant toward her, and some accounts claimed he took extra shifts at work, leaving Kristen alone for long stretches of the day. Less than 48 hours after arriving in Ovid, Kristen called her mother, Phyllis, from a payphone and said she was cutting the trip short. She planned to come home early. Phyllis later said her daughter sounded upset, but Kristen did not explain exactly what had happened. That phone call would become one of the last confirmed conversations Kristen had with her family. On Wednesday, August 14th, Jim, Kristen, and several others spent part of the afternoon at Seneca Lake. Later, the group went to another friend's house to play pool, before returning to the trailer near the Golden Buck. By that evening, people were drinking and socializing inside the trailer. Kristen was reportedly not drinking. At around 11:05 p.m., Kristen spoke with one of the girls at the trailer. According to later accounts, she asked why Jim had invited her to Ovid, if he was now going to ignore her. The girl reportedly told Kristen that Jim had a girlfriend, and that this may have changed things. Around 11:30 p.m., Kristen said she was going for a walk. She left the trailer barefoot and without her purse. This was not considered entirely unusual by those who knew her. Kristen enjoyed walking at night, especially to clear her head or look at the stars, but this time she was in an unfamiliar rural town, walking alone along dark roads late at night, with no shoes and no way to contact anyone. At approximately 11:45 p.m., Jim returned to the trailer after going out for pizza and learned that Kristen had gone for a walk. Shortly after midnight, 2 people inside the trailer became concerned that she had not returned and went out to look for her. They later reported hearing a scream, though they said they could not determine where it came from. Around the same time, a family living near County Route 139 also heard a scream, but believed it may have come from the direction of the Golden Buck. No one called police. At around 12:15 a.m., 2 witnesses reported seeing a girl walking west along West Seneca Street. They also reported seeing a vehicle moving slowly beside her, with a young man inside talking to her through the open passenger window. Then, around 12:50 a.m., another witness reported hearing 3 terrifying screams coming from the direction of a farmer's lane near a cornfield. Shortly afterwards, that witness heard what sounded like a car or pickup truck starting up with its lights off. The vehicle reportedly moved away in low gear before its headlights were seen through the trees, heading towards State Route 414. Kristen never returned to the trailer. At around 1:30 a.m., 2 local kids were reportedly seen walking east toward the village of Ovid along State Route 139. At around 2 a.m., Jim later stated that he and another person went out again to search for Kristen. Still, no formal report was made until the following afternoon. Jim contacted New York State Police around 1 p.m. on Thursday, August 15th. A missing persons report was taken at around 4 p.m., but because heavy rain had begun falling, the main search did not start until the next morning. That delay would become critical. Rain can erase footprints, disturb trace evidence, and wash away material that might have helped investigators reconstruct what happened. On Friday, August 16th, police, firefighters, and searchers began checking the area around the trailer and the Golden Buck. At 5:11 p.m., less than a quarter of a mile from where Kristen had been staying, her body was found in an overgrown cornfield. She had been left without clothing, although her clothes were found nearby. She had suffered multiple sharp impacts to the chest and deeply to her throat. The coroner reported no signs of SA, and testing found her body was alcohol-free. No weapon was ever found. From the beginning, the case was filled with questions. Kristen had not vanished from an isolated place. She had been at a trailer with other people. She had been seen walking on the road. Witnesses had reported a slow-moving vehicle beside her. People had heard screams. Others later reported seeing flashlights in the cornfield where her body would be found. Yet despite all of that, no one has ever been arrested. Then, 9 days after Kristen's death, police received one of the strangest pieces of information in the case. On August 23, 1985, an anonymous caller contacted New York State Police in Auburn. The caller told Trooper D.C. Ryer to look at a green Chevy on Main Street in Waterloo, open the trunk, and said they would find what they needed to identify the perpetrator. The call was recorded, but the tape was not released to the public until years later. This is that phone call.
Hello. This is police in Auburn? Yes, it is. Listen to me, all right? Yep. And don't interrupt me. You want the guy to kill that girl? Go ahead. You look at find the Chevy, the green Chevy on Main Street in Waterloo, and you'll find him. If you open the trunk, you'll find what you want. The green Chevy on Main Street? In Waterloo. If you open the trunk, I'm getting out of town because I told him not to do it. I'm getting you out of town. Okay. Oh, wait a minute now. Green Chevy.
Over the decades, investigators followed more than 2,000 leads. Private investigators interviewed more than 100 people of interest and many witnesses. The case passed through multiple hands, and questions were later raised about evidence handling, including reports that one investigative document was found hidden in a drawer more than 20 years after the murder. There were also attempts to apply newer DNA testing to the case. In 2009, officials including Senator Chuck Schumer supported an effort to use advanced touch DNA testing, but the request was blocked by New York State officials. In 2012, a New York certified DNA lab again offered to test evidence using updated methods, but that request was also rejected. Why do you think the testing was rejected? It's hard to think of a good reason that doesn't make the police look a little sus. Nearly 40 years later, Kristen's mother has continued pushing for answers. The reward for information has been doubled. Her case remains open. New York State Police still ask anyone with information to contact their major crimes unit. What remains so unsettling is not just that Kristen O'Connell was taken from this earth. It is that her final movements were not invisible. People saw her, people heard something. Someone made a strange call naming a car and a location, and in a village of just a few hundred people, the truth has somehow remained out of reach. Someone knows what happened in that cornfield. Someone knows why Kristen never came home. By the time Veronica Posey picked up the phone on the afternoon of October 14, 2017, Derkica Lindsay was lying motionless inside the family's Pensacola, Florida home. The discipline that had supposedly been intended to calm her had instead escalated into a medical emergency that nobody inside the house even seemed prepared to recognize until it was too late. According to investigators, Derkica had been living with her adoptive parents, James and Grace Smith. That day, they believed she had become increasingly difficult to control. Prosecutors later told the court that the adults claimed Derkica had been behaving aggressively and had allegedly threatened them with household items. Instead of calling for outside help or attempting to de-escalate the situation, Grace Smith contacted her niece, Veronica Posey, asking her to come to the house and help discipline Derkica. Posey arrived carrying a ruler and a small length of white pipe that she had attached to it to give it extra weight. During the trial, prosecutors argued that she had come intending to force Derkica into submission. Defense lawyers would later argue that Posey believed she was simply helping relatives who were struggling to manage an extremely challenging situation. Both sides agreed on one crucial fact. Posey was central to the case, and she was responsible for what came next. The punishment quickly escalated. Evidence presented in court stated that Derkica was struck multiple times with the reinforced ruler, while Grace Smith also used a belt. At some stage, the frightened girl ended up bent over an armchair, with her knees on the floor and her upper body resting across the seat cushions. Posey then lowered her body weight onto Derkica's back. She later admitted weighing around 320 pounds at the time. Look at the difference between these two human beings. Sometimes I see or hear or read something that really makes me question everything. This is one of those things. Initially, she believed sitting on Derkica would stop her moving. During her testimony, Posey claimed she thought she was simply resisting discipline and trying to get away. As the minutes passed, Derkica repeatedly said she could not breathe. Posey later admitted that she ignored the first warning because she believed Derkica was lying and attempting to manipulate the situation. Only after repeated cries for help did she finally stand up. By then, Derkica was no longer responding. Rather than immediately dialing emergency services, testimony revealed that attempts were first made to wake Derkica herself. Ammonia or smelling salts was held beneath her nose. Water was splashed onto her face. None of it worked. Only then was 911 called. When the dispatcher answered, Posey's opening words immediately revealed either stupidity, lack of care or knowledge, or an attempt to minimize the situation by increasing Derkica's age. "We have a 10-year-old, she began, giving the wrong age. "I'll just actually play the call for you so you can hear for yourself." Unreal.
We have a 10-year-old who is either faking it or is not breathing right now. She's been had a knife, gonna cut her uncle and aunt, talking to them, being disrespectful. And I came over here to correct her, and she was fighting against us. And I had her sit in a chair, and she was bucking and stuff and didn't want to move. So when I released her, I told her to get up. She wouldn't get up.
The uncertainty in that first sentence is enraging. Even after everything that had just happened, she still appeared unsure whether Derkica was genuinely in medical distress. As the operator asked questions, Posey explained that Derkica had been disrespectful, had allegedly threatened her adoptive parents, and that she had come over to correct her behavior. She described making the girl sit in a chair, before saying that when she released her and told her to stand up, she simply did not move. Throughout the call, the dispatcher worked methodically, asking Posey to check her victim's condition before guiding her through CPR. The recording captures the transition from uncertainty to growing panic, as Posey attempted chest compressions while waiting for paramedics to arrive. Emergency crews reached the home, but there was nothing they could do to reverse what had already happened. The medical examination later concluded that Derkica's time had come to an end because she had been unable to breathe while Posey was sitting on her. Investigators also documented extensive bruising, consistent with repeated physical punishment. During the trial, the medical examiner described the injuries as some of the most severe bruising she had encountered during more than 2 decades of forensic work. Evidence also showed that Derkica had been wearing 4 pairs of underwear, something prosecutors suggested may have been an attempt to protect herself from repeated spankings. The fear that she must have felt daily is so sad. Veronica Posey was ultimately convicted of first-degree felony murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. James Smith later received a 10-year prison sentence after pleading no contest to his role in the event, while charges against Grace Smith remained unresolved for a prolonged period after she was ruled mentally and physically unfit to stand trial. Whitney Houston's voice had defined an era. By the time she arrived at the Beverly Hilton Hotel in Los Angeles during Grammy weekend in February 2012, she had sold more than 220 million records worldwide, starred in some of the most successful music films ever made, and become one of the most recognizable singers in history. Yet, alongside those achievements had come years of public struggles with addiction, repeated attempts at rehabilitation, and constant speculation about her health. She had openly acknowledged those battles in interviews, insisting that recovery was an ongoing process, rather than a single moment. Despite everything, there was genuine optimism surrounding her final public appearances. Houston was in Beverly Hills to attend Clive Davis' annual pre-Grammy celebration, the same event that had helped launch her career almost 3 decades earlier. Friends believed she was looking forward to the evening. She had been working on new music, discussing future projects and spending time with people she had known for years. Although many later focused on photographs showing her appearing tired or disheveled, those who spent time with her during Grammy Week described moments where she laughed, danced and sang, just as they remembered from years before. On Thursday, February 9th, Houston attended Kelly Price's Grammy party at True Hollywood nightclub. During the evening, she joined Price on stage, performing what would become her final public performance. Witnesses described her singing enthusiastically, although there were also reports of a tense exchange involving singer Stacey Francis and Ray J. It's worth noting that at this time, Whitney and Ray J were in a relationship. I also just learned that Ray is the brother of Brandy. Pretty crazy. No punches were thrown, but several media outlets later described Houston as emotional and agitated during the encounter. Photographs taken as she left the venue quickly spread across news websites, leading to renewed public concern about her well-being. Friends, however, dismissed suggestions that something catastrophic was unfolding, saying she had simply been enjoying herself and celebrating music. Friday passed relatively quietly. Houston reportedly spent much of the evening inside the Beverly Hilton, socializing in the hotel bar with friends, while preparations continued throughout the building for the industry's biggest weekend. The hotel itself had become a hub for artists, executives, journalists, and production crews, arriving ahead of the Grammy Awards. There was little reason for anyone around her to imagine that within 24 hours, the hotel would become the center of one of the biggest entertainment stories in the world. Saturday, February 11th, began normally. Earlier that day, Houston spoke with her cousin Dionne Warwick to make sure they would be sitting together during Clive Davis's party later that evening. According to reports, the conversation gave no indication that anything was wrong. At approximately 3:15 p.m., Houston also spoke with her mother, Cissy Houston. Once again, there were no obvious signs of distress. Plans for the evening remained unchanged, and everyone expected Whitney to appear downstairs for the party just a few hours later. Instead, events inside Suite 434 were moving in an entirely different direction. Houston's hairstylist had been working with her earlier in the afternoon before leaving briefly. When members of her entourage returned to the room shortly afterwards, they discovered Houston submerged in the bathtub and completely unresponsive. At 3:43 p.m., hotel security received an emergency call requesting immediate assistance. Because police officers were already stationed throughout the Beverly Hilton ahead of the high-profile Grammy celebrations, they reached the room within just a couple of minutes. The frantic attempts to save her were captured in the hotel's emergency call.
911 emergency. Hi, how you doing? This is security from Beverly Hilton. Hi, what's going on? I need a paramedic. Apparently, you got a 46-year-old female found in the bathroom. That's all I've got right now, but they're requesting paramedic. Oh, okay. Female found in the bathroom. What room is she in? I'm not sure if she fell or if she was in the bathroom with the water. 434? 434, I'm sorry. That's room 434? Yeah. Okay, and there's not east, west, or anything else? It's room 434? Yeah. Okay, you don't know if she was conscious of breathing at all? Apparently she wasn't breathing. Is she 46-year-old? She was not breathing? Yes. Okay, but she is breathing now? I don't know. Okay. The person that called me was irate and pretty much out of it. Okay, I've got security going there now. Okay, well, since later on there was that person not breathing. Does it sound like the person was still not breathing? Yeah, that's correct. Okay, we'll get in there for not breathing. Is there any way you can get me to the room so I can try to get CPR? Yeah, we're going there now. Can you get me into the room so I can try to get CPR instructions? Oh, I'm sorry. No, because she kept hanging up on us. Kept hanging up on you? Yeah. Okay, all right, we'll get in there and get us over there, okay? Okay, thank you. Thank you, bye.
The caller urgently reported that a woman had been found unconscious in the bathtub and was not breathing. Dispatchers immediately instructed those inside the room to begin life-saving measures while emergency medical personnel rushed towards the suite. Hotel staff and first responders worked continuously, performing CPR in an effort to restart Houston's heart. The calm professionalism of the dispatcher contrasted sharply with the panic unfolding inside the hotel room, as those present desperately tried to revive one of the most famous voices in music history. Paramedics arrived and immediately took over resuscitation efforts. Despite prolonged attempts, Houston never regained consciousness, and at 3:55 p.m., she was pronounced dead at the age of just 48. Beverly Hills police quickly stated there were no obvious signs of foul play or immediate evidence suggesting criminal involvement. While investigators began documenting the scene, news spread with astonishing speed. Guests attending Clive Davis's pre-Grammy event began hearing rumors even before official confirmation reached the media. Within minutes, phones throughout the ballroom lit up with breaking news alerts. What had been intended as one of the music industry's biggest celebrations instantly transformed into a tribute. When Clive Davis addressed the audience, he was visibly emotional. He told the crowd that everyone had learned of the unspeakably tragic news of Whitney's passing and described himself as personally devastated. Davis explained that Houston had been excited about attending that evening and believed she would have wanted the music to continue. Throughout the night, performances became tributes rather than celebrations. Tony Bennett, who had long admired Houston's extraordinary talent, reflected that after hearing her for the first time, he had told Davis, "You finally found the greatest singer I've ever heard in my life." The atmosphere inside the ballroom was widely described as surreal, with artists learning about Houston's passing only moments before stepping onto the stage. The official investigation continued over the following weeks. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner ultimately concluded that Houston had accidentally drowned in the bathtub. The report stated that heart disease and substance use were contributing factors that significantly increased the risk of the fatal incident. The manner of passing was officially classified as accidental. Other medications were identified during the examination, but investigators concluded they had not contributed directly to the events leading to her death. Houston's passing marked the end of a career that had transformed popular music. From the young church singer in Newark to the artist behind I Will Always Love You and countless other recordings, her influence stretched across generations of performers. Even years after her passing, her recordings continue to reach new audiences, while her voice remains one of the defining sounds of modern popular music. Yet the final memory of Whitney Houston is not a concert stage or an awards ceremony, but the silence that followed those desperate moments inside Suite 434. Thank you so much for watching. I'm uploading daily true crime and dark content here on this channel, so make sure that you're subscribed, hit like on the video, and also drop a comment so you get shown more of my stuff.